Well, welcome. We are going to be discussing Saturn today, and Saturn is a really fun planet to talk about because it has two clearly different vibrations. Saturn can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Saturn at its highest vibration will graduate you from the school of hard knocks and open doors for you that were shut for so long. At its lowest vibration, it will make you sit down in class. It'll make you behave. It'll make you accountable. It will make you take responsibility for your actions, as this is the planet of karma. It will restrict you. It will sometimes cause obstacles for you to overcome. This planet is essential for our soul growth. It can also provide you direction in your life. Say that you are lost and you don't know which way to go, and you want stability, but you don't know how to get there because, throughout your life, you have lived kind of a life on the fly. Saturn can ground you, can guide you, can get you to that next level in your life. One of the things that is very important to understand about Saturn is patience. Saturn is a very slow-moving and malefic planet. So the lessons tend to be hard knock lessons, which means it's not going to give anything to you on a silver platter like, say, Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of blessing, and it's the planet of expansion, and it's like a genie in the bottle. Like, it's such a wonderful planet. And again, there's negatives and lower vibrations about Jupiter as well. But Saturn, even at its highest vibration, it doesn't embellish you. It's not an ego-stroking planet. It's a humbling planet. It's a planet that causes you to turn inward and look at yourself and think about how your actions actually affect the collective, the world, people as a whole. It wants you to seek your authentic self, but it also wants you to consider all. Saturn actually rules Capricorn, so it's a very grounded planet. It likes stability. So if you're a person who has been being really irresponsible with people, and you've been self-indulgent, Saturn does not like that. Saturn will put you in your place when it either retrogrades or aspects you in your chart in any negative way. Now, when Saturn trines you, say you have a Saturn trine in your chart, or it comes through and it trines things, Saturn actually is a gift giver at that point. Now, mind you, I prefer the way Jupiter gives gifts as opposed to the way Saturn gives gifts, but neither here nor there, it does bless you. Saturn is the planet of karma, so essentially think of it like this: you reap what you sow. If you're a person out there breaking the law and having no respect for others, Saturn is the planet that represents incarceration, insane asylums, restriction. Saturn tends to be viewed in astrology as a great disciplinarian, hence the father and very masculine energy of the planet. It represents your father. So let's say, like me, I have Saturn in my 12th house, which is not a great house to have it in. So Saturn is the planet also of control. So Saturn in my 12th house represents my father, who was a very strict disciplinarian. He was a Pisces, which it's kind of interesting that that Saturn is in my 12th house, and my father was the main disciplinarian in the household. He was very strict. It's interesting that he was also a Pisces, and all of that is in my 12th house. The reason why I bring all this up is because when I read people's charts and when I talk to people about Saturn, the first thing I want to know is, where is Saturn in your chart? I want to know where that limitation is, where that restriction is. Saturn likes to essentially pull back the reins. So in my case, Saturn is in my 12th house. If it's in your 12th house, it means that I have to always collectively think of others. If I start to do things for myself only that benefit just me, Saturn will not let that happen. Saturn will slap my hands and put me back into a position like this where I'm serving others. My destination on this earth during my lifetime is to serve others. I will only succeed when I am serving others. If I start to serve myself, if I start to just consider myself as my primary goal, I always fail. That is Saturn restricting me. That is Saturn controlling my choices and pushing me in the direction that Saturn wants me to go. These lessons have been very difficult and very hard, and often the obstacles that I have to overcome have been very, very painful. I have lost my possessions numerous times because Saturn doesn't want me to benefit unless I serve others. Hence, now I'm a teacher, and now I'm doing these YouTube videos and letting you guys know about, some of the guides that are helping me. And I think it was more or less my destiny. By knowing Saturn, you can know why your life continually just doesn't get to that level that you want to be. Doesn't get to the level of success that you think success is. That's the first place I want to go. If somebody says, you know what, every time I try to get ahead, it just seems like the world just yanks something away from me. That's Saturn. I can almost guarantee every time when I look it up, it's Saturn in there teaching you something, creating an obstacle, humbling you. When we are humbled, we become servants of spirituality and servants of the universe. We seek a higher power. And of course, it being in my Saturn being in the 12th house is all about a higher power. It's all about seeking strength through a spiritual plane, through an unconscious level versus a conscious level. When I am benefiting consciously on tangible things, that's when Saturn doesn't support me. Saturn supports me when I dive deep into myself and pull out this energy to give to you. I find that just recently, the dominoes have cascaded astronomically in the other direction because I am a servant. So it's very important to know where Saturn is. It also is very important to know whether or not what house it is, it's actually trining, conjuncting, squaring, or sextiling. And these are just basic terms of astrology, and I'll go over all these in another video. But mine is actually trining. Saturn is trining my 12th house. And so, which means as soon as I get on board, it's very, very, very supportive. I mean, when you go to trine, Saturn is your cheerleader at this point. Now, another interesting thing about Saturn is if, like, say you have Saturn in your first house, Saturn is an old soul. It's a very old soul. It's like the crotchety old grandpa soul. And they are wise and they have lived lifetimes of experience, and they can sit back and they're not indulgent and they're humble, and they really are, if you ever look at your grandparents, they're just humble. And that is what Saturn does represent. Well, in this case, Saturn in astrology represents the wise one, extremely wise soul. So if you're out there making a bunch of irrational decisions, Saturn isn't gonna tolerate that. Saturn at some point will retrograde, pull your butt back, and make you face what you just did. We are going to be experiencing a Saturn retrograde in 2015, and it will be in Sagittarius. And so I find it really kind of interesting about this particular retrograde because it is telling you that you can't be self-indulgent. That if you have lived a self-indulgent life, then unfortunately Saturn's going to pull back the reins on anything that will get you ahead and you alone. If it will get others and you ahead, then Saturn will support you and push you and push forward, give you all of the tools to get you successful, and then you will live a great life. If you are out there trying to make yourself happy, if you are taking advantage of people, Saturn then pulls the reins back and puts all kinds of obstacles in your way to make you as unhappy as possible so that you seek a higher power, especially in the retrograde in 2015. Because it's in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is about serving others. It's broad. It's about humanity. It's about the masses. And so if you're out there serving yourself, Saturn's going to pull back the reins and say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give that to you. You're not reaching your fullest potential for others. Remember that this planet is a really old planet. So it takes about 30 years for it to completely orbit our solar system. So once Saturn is in there doing its thing, it doesn't let go of you. So it's very, very beneficial if you go through life doing unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Because if once it comes around, it remembers everything you ever did to anybody else, and it gives you those lessons times 10. Hence, karma. And I live by karma. I run my life by karma. I believe wholeheartedly in it. Even before I understood astrology, even before I understood, exactly what the consequences are of creating bad karma, I just believed in it. I mean, I was religious, so I was raised to just do unto others as you would have done to yourself. But I did go through a phase in my life where I thought, screw it. It's all about me. Everybody else is all about me. So this is going to be about me. And so I decided to just fend for myself. Most miserable 5 years of my entire life. Now, this was when Saturn was going through Cancer and Leo, which I'm a Leo on the cusp of Cancer. It was a miserable, miserable 5 years, and I got my butt handed to me. My ego broke. Everything was took from me. The recession hit. Like, it was just one thing after another, and I'm like, and then I started learning about Saturn. I'm becoming obsessed with Saturn and its teachings, and I thought, oh, this is why I'm getting nailed like right and left, and why it's so hard for me to just do anything. I wanted to make a video about Saturn just so that I could have a foundation for when I make my Saturn in retrograde in Sagittarius video, which I'm going to make right after this. If you are doing what is destined to be done in your natal chart, if you can look at Saturn and look at its placement, and you can pattern your life after that placement, if you can really understand where you're limited, if you could let go of the fears that you have. Saturn is fear. And if you can face your fear, Saturn will bless you, because Saturn is all about giving you that hard lesson and then saying, here you go, I'm going to give you blessings because, wow, you just passed my course. So now you get to graduate and watch the dominoes fall and watch just your ship come in. I mean, it's an amazing planet. Again, not like Jupiter, but it's beautiful in its own way. But you just got to understand the two different vibrations, and you got to have respect for the fact that there are two different vibrations to this planet. So I hope you enjoyed my Saturn video. If you guys have any questions, let me know. You can go to cafeastrology.com, and there is a place there where you can get a free natal chart. And in that free natal chart, it will show you where Saturn is. It shows you if it's conjuncting, if it's sextiling. It shows you everything about Saturn you want to know. It does do some minor interpretations. I like my own interpretation of Saturn since I've been studying it for so very long. And I have a different take on the benefits and the disadvantages of Saturn, but I still think, all in all of the teachings of Saturn are important. And I hope you have a wonderful and fabulous day, and I look forward to making more of these videos for you, and thank you so much for subscribing.